So we're a charity and our focus is on rural sustainability. We're in fact one of the only a handful of organisations on earth that I know of, and I've been researching this for 15 years, that specialise in rural, regional and remote sustainability. And you may not know that only a year and a half ago, for the first time in human history, more people live metropolitan and urban than rural for the first time in human history. So there's some big changes going on, and we're very passionate about the importance and the opportunity of rural, regional and remote. The title of my talk is Disruptive Entrepreneurship, which was kindly given to me by Laura. And that describes two elements of our model of change. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I'm really rapt to be a part of Futurelands2 with all of you. And I really appreciate your presence and this opportunity to share some of my perspectives with you. I'd also like to express and acknowledge my respect for the First Peoples of this place and Australia, the oldest continuous culture in human history and the only culture which has successfully adapted to and survived climate change. So a bit of context. If the existing isn't working, if it isn't fit for purpose, if it isn't demonstrably capable of changing, then new models and new ways of organising, living, working and being are needed. We are witnessing right now the early stages of the Earth's sixth great extinction. It's called the Anthropocene Age, since it's the first great extinction to be caused by humanity. I'd like it to be the last, and better still, I'd like to avert it altogether. And this is just one of many global scale negative trends playing out at this time. There are solutions too, such as the extraordinary breakthroughs in clean technologies for energy, in healthcare, new modalities and pedagogies in education, communication and the like. So too, the outpouring of people coming together to create positive change, such as yourselves. A movement of organisations for good on a scale that is truly inspiring. The movement has been nicknamed the Blessed Unrest. However, when taking together the positive and the negative megatrends, the net effect is still a situation of great decline, especially for nature and the world's poorest and most socially vulnerable and excluded peoples and cultures. In the 20 years I've worked in social change for sustainability, I've seen so many positive and promising initiatives captured or corrupted by the dominant system and players. From the mega scale, such as things like the renewable energy target that was referred to earlier, the carbon package, the recent closure of CSIRO's world-leading climate change research institute, to the micro scale of highly successful programs creating healing for traumatised people and communities that lost funding and support due to the toxic impact of the Northern Territory intervention. Acknowledged Jill. My own experience is that hierarchical systems are one of the epicentres of our problems. They centralise and empower a truly minuscule number of individuals, what I call a picker elite, to have a truly ridiculous level of authority and responsibility. Furthermore, the smaller the number of people with that authority, the easier it is to capture and corrupt the system that they are responsible for. Given that the richest 62 people on Earth now hold as much financial wealth as the poorest half, or 3.5 billion, there is a very real risk that unhealthy, if not dangerous, self-interest is at play on an unprecedented scale. This has been unequivocally witnessed many times. Think big tobacco, big pharma's influence on health policy, and how the coal and oil barons have eroded energy and climate change progress. Australia has some of the most oligopolised industries in the world. Think grocery, think banking, media, energy and politics, which are all dominated by just a few players. Yet all too often, we cede the sovereignty of our work to these traditional hierarchies, particularly to government and politicians, though corporations have now created the very same illusion of control over our work too. So this is where the theory of change comes in. Buckminster Fuller said, "You never change anything by fighting the existing. To change something, build a new model and make the existing one redundant." Simon yesterday quoted John Maynard Keynes saying something very similar. The difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as in escaping from the old ones. Yet I've come to observe that nearly all change strategies are in fact focused in the very opposite way to what Bucky and Keynes said. I see that most are aimed to change the existing systems, organisations, and perhaps most of all in our country, government policy. I see that most people seek to create change either from the outside of this establishment, such as through campaigns, lobbying, petitions, protest proposals and the like, or from within as a Machiavellian agent for good. My view is that each of these change strategies wrongly presumes that working with and through the existing status quo and system is a pathway to sustainability. This all too often turns out to be futile because the gravitational forces of the inherent greed, bigotry, fear, hate and destructiveness of this picker elite at the top of these hierarchies and the few who pull their strings that are hidden from our view are so resistant to letting go of power and control. Given this, I assert that our creativity in regard to change strategy is captured and blinkered. But of course, the existing players, organisations, structures and systems hold the resources, the power, the authority, the influence, and they have on their side the powerful inertia that is the way things are. It's alluring to ignore the self-interest in this broken system and want to work with them and within the establishment. It's these very ingredients that the power holders so silkily offer us. The funding, a seat at the table, or a media photo shoot. To start to misappropriate the positive change which will inherently disrupt their control. So this is where enterprise becomes of central importance, in my view, for change, for genuine sustainability. For when we are able to attract and generate resources for the very purpose of our initiatives that we're working on, that are aligned with the philosophy of those initiatives, without any overt or covert constraint, we see the emergence of real flow and lasting change. Part of being enterprising is merely the inherent creativity that comes with being entrepreneurial, creating and moving ideas into action, bringing them into being. However, creativity is not new when it comes to social change for sustainability. What is new is the ways of attracting and generating the material resources that are required to do this work well and which are immune to the risks of capture and corruption by the status quo. So while this kind of change disrupts the control of that unhealthy and pathological system, its purpose is, of course, to enable sustainability, to open up possibilities for greater caring, inclusion, well-being, life and love. While change of any kind can feel chaotic, and it comes with the almost ever-present fear of letting go of the familiar, this kind of disruption intends only for harmony. Really then, the disruption in this form is the change from the harmful to the kind. The friction from the disruption arises less from the new and more from the slipping grip of these existing and false forces which are holding things back, forcing them in an unhealthy direction, or simply incapable of doing the work that is needed and not willing to let control go for someone else who can do it to do it. The disruption which Starfish seeks to create and enable is best described by something that Mark Twain said and inspires me deeply. Few things are harder to put up with than the annoyance of a really good example. And Starfish has created some really good examples that disrupt and annoy the status quo. Before getting to that though, I want to share just one other aspect about our work. One key aspect of the approach we take, which is that we're a network, not an organisation. In the same way that the establishment can capture, corrupt and stifle change, so too this unhealthy pattern can be present inside organisations, particularly as they grow and invariably become more hierarchical and centralised. Hands up any of you that have worked in one of them. Senior management turnover, you've put years of work into shit and it's gone. However, Starfish's sustainability issues are led by the people and the partners involved in each one of them. We provide supporting systems to them, we don't control them. They decide. This network model allows for quite profound levels of collaboration. In just 5 years of existence, our 100+ sustainability initiatives have included collaboration with 500+ partners, involved 10,000 direct participants, initiatives that have been led by 300 professionals and 1,000 volunteers. So what then are our annoyingly good examples? So through this structure, through this network, we're leading one of Australia's largest community solar energy installation programs, just now completing Australia's first ever community-funded, council-operated solar farms. It's in Lismore, and one of them will be the largest floating solar array yet built in the country. We've facilitated the design and creation of some of the most participatory sustainability strategies in the world. For the New England High Country, for the Border Rivers catchment area, and for Tamworth Youth. Each of these strategies has literally involved thousands of people and hundreds of organisations, proving the possibility of a depth and breadth of participation hardly ever seen before in human history. We're working on the Centre for Reconciliation at Myall Creek, focused upon healing one of the oldest human conflicts of all, white on black discrimination and violence. And despite the global and universal nature of this horrid conflict, Myall Creek has the very real potential to become the first dedicated centre to that issue anywhere in the world. We've created the world's first open source model for rural towns and villages to design their own 100% renewable energy transition plan called Zero Net Energy Town. We're pioneering the establishment of Australia's first fully integrated natural funeral and natural burial service, which has the potential to fund landscape-scale regeneration of habitat right across the country. And lastly, we've played a significant part in raising $20 million of funding for our partners, including Australia's only regional-based residential alcohol and addiction rehabilitation centre, Freeman House, a collaborative network for mental health services, and rural Australia's only purpose-built and purpose-designed youth facility and service centre, which is the Youthy in Tamworth. So our enterprise approach to this work has been a major contributing factor to us growing to $1.5 million of income this year. It's important to note that this has been achieved in an area of work that's notoriously hard to find funds for. And of course, that's just the cash, so the pro bono and voluntary contributions in this work, which you can picture from the number of parties involved, more often than not dwarfs the cash, but it's useful, if not essential, to have that for good coffee, if nothing else. So as a charity, we still seek donations and grants. However, as an enterprise, we also have professional fee-for-service projects with our partners, or as I colloquially call them, our collaborators with cash. We have successfully tendered for commercial work, at times outbidding big commercial players, and we generate our own revenues, such as through the community solar project I mentioned. Behind the scenes, another strength of this network-based architecture, which shares leadership and distributes authority and responsibility, is an amazing level of efficiency. Our overhead costs are less than 3% of our income. So with this leanness, we already have enough funds in the bank to operate for a decade at least. So our change strategy and approach isn't going away anytime soon. For us, these good examples prove the possibility of new ways of living, working and being. We believe that these are ways that are better able to work for the whole rather than just a few. However, they're mere seeds of sustainability. We have a long way to go and a lot more to grow. Thank you very much.